In January of 49 BCE, under cover of night, Julius Caesar, governor of Cisalpine Gaul, stood on the banks of the Rubicon River. This narrow waterway in northern Italy marked the official boundary between his province and the heartland of the Roman Republic. Crossing it with an armed force was an unambiguous act of treason under Roman law. Nevertheless, Caesar faced a stark choice: yield to the Senate's ultimatum or march on Rome and risk igniting a civil war. Over the preceding decade, Caesar's conquests in the Gallic Wars had expanded Rome's influence across vast territories, earning him immense popularity and a devoted army. Yet this very success sowed distrust among the Senate, particularly Caesar's former ally, Pompey the Great. As tensions escalated and diplomacy failed, Caesar made the fateful decision to wade into the icy waters of the Rubicon, declaring Alea Iacta Est, the die is cast. Why did one of Rome's most brilliant generals choose a path so perilous, knowing it would plunge the Republic into chaos? We will trace the steps that led to the crossing of the Rubicon, examine the swift march to Rome, and follow the conflict all the way to the plains of Pharsalus, where Caesar's destiny and the fate of the Roman Republic would be decided. Between 58 and 50 BCE, Julius Caesar led the Gallic Wars, conquering modern-day France, Belgium, and parts of Germany. These campaigns enriched Rome with spoils of war, fostered strong loyalty among Caesar's legionaries due to shared hardships, and won him immense popularity among ordinary Romans. By securing strategic rivers like the Rhine and establishing alliances with local tribes, Caesar extended Rome's frontier northward, boosted trade routes, and showcased Roman engineering by repeatedly crossing the Alps. In 60 BCE, Caesar initially governed in tandem with Pompey the Great and Crassus, forming the first triumvirate. However, Crassus's death in 53 BCE at the Battle of Carrhae in Parthia and Pompey's pivot to the Senate fractured their alliance. Rivalry over wealth, influence, and military glory intensified, while Rome faced lingering threats on its eastern borders from Hellenistic states and remained wary of potential conflicts in newly subjugated Gallic territories. The breakdown of the triumvirate set the stage for a broader power struggle. Alarmed by Caesar's rising influence and the loyalty of about 10 battle-hardened legions, totaling approximately 40,000 infantry and 1,000 cavalry, that followed him unwaveringly, the Senate demanded he disband these forces before re-entering Rome. Concerned that a victorious general returning from Gaul might topple Republican checks and balances, they trusted Pompey, once Caesar's ally, to contain him. The Senate feared Rome's overreach beyond the Alps, worrying that divided leadership at home would expose the Republic to barbarian incursions or opportunistic maneuvers by rival powers in the eastern Mediterranean. By early 49 BCE, the Senate, driven by Pompey's influence, issued an ultimatum. Caesar must disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen or face the charge of treason. Hoping to avoid civil war, Caesar offered to stand down if Pompey did likewise. When the Senate refused, Caesar proposed a compromise. He would relinquish all but one province and one legion. However, the Senate, emboldened by Pompey's pledge to defend Rome, rejected each of Caesar's offers. They passed the Senatus Consultum Ultimum, final decree, labeling Caesar a public enemy unless he immediately surrendered his command. For Caesar, relinquishing his legions, most of which were stationed across Transalpine Gaul to maintain control over the northern frontier, while only the 13th Legion was with him in Cisalpine Gaul, meant losing not only his political power, but also risking prosecution, exile, or even death. Negotiations collapsed, leaving Caesar with a binary choice: submit to the Senate's demands or take drastic action. Though small in width, the Rubicon marked the northern limit of Italy proper. Crossing it with an armed force violated a centuries-old Roman law, the Lex de Imperio, designed to protect the Republic from military coups. This action on January 10, 49 BCE was not merely a geographical crossing, but a public declaration that Caesar was willing to defy the Senate. Alea Iacta Est, the die is cast. Contemporary accounts suggest Caesar uttered these famous words as he stepped into the icy waters. This moment signaled the point of no return. Any further attempts at negotiation were all but doomed. Caesar began the crossing with only a small contingent of his veteran 13th Legion to make a bold statement. In the following days, the rest of the legionaries followed. This staggered approach maintained strategic flexibility while ensuring the initial act of defiance was front and center in Rome's collective mind. After crossing the Rubicon on January 10, 49 BCE, Caesar's swift campaign began with the capture of Ariminum, modern-day Rimini. His 13th Legion, renowned for its discipline and loyalty, moved rapidly along the Italian peninsula, securing key towns like Pisarum, Pizarro, and Oximum, Osimo, without resistance. Caesar's reputation for clemency and strategic brilliance encouraged local leaders and garrisons to surrender peacefully, avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. By late January, Caesar turned his attention to Corfinium, where Domitius Ahenobarbus had fortified himself with approximately 10,000 men. Caesar besieged the town, cutting off supplies and escape routes. After a brief standoff, Domitius's troops mutinied and surrendered the garrison to Caesar. Demonstrating his calculated strategy of clemency, Caesar spared Domitius and his men, reinforcing his image as a fair and just leader, willing to avoid unnecessary destruction. Following his success at Corfinium, Caesar marched south to Brundisium, a vital Adriatic port where Pompey the Great had retreated with Senate forces. Hoping to trap Pompey before he could flee to Greece, Caesar proposed direct negotiations to avoid further conflict, but this suggestion went unanswered. Caesar's forces attempted to blockade the harbor by constructing earthworks, but Pompey's superior naval fleet allowed him to evacuate his army and key Senate allies to Greece under cover of night. Although Pompey eluded capture, Caesar's control over Italy was now absolute. By mid-March, Caesar entered Rome unopposed, bringing with him approximately 5,000 men of the 13th Legion. After entering Rome unopposed, Julius Caesar seized the Roman treasury to fund his campaign, portraying himself as the protector of Roman stability. He framed his actions as necessary to defend the Republic against a corrupt Senate dominated by Pompey the Great and self-serving aristocrats. Caesar emphasized that his dignity and the loyalty of his legions, hardened by years of service in the Gallic Wars, were under attack, justifying his bold decisions to the Roman people. Meanwhile, the Senate branded Caesar a public enemy through the Senatus Consultum Ultimum, accusing him of treason and undermining the Republic's stability. However, Caesar's victories at Corfinium and Brundisium demonstrated his exceptional blend of strategy, speed, and psychological warfare. These triumphs, combined with his image as a man of the people, swayed public opinion. As Pompey regrouped in Greece, Caesar's dominance over Italy ensured the civil war would escalate to an unprecedented confrontation. With Rome and much of Italy under his control, Caesar set his sights on Pompey, who had regrouped in Greece. There, Pompey commanded roughly 40,000 infantry and 7,000 cavalry, backed by wealthy eastern provinces. Caesar's force was smaller, about 22,000 infantry and 1,000 cavalry, but battle-hardened from years of campaigning. Pompey dominated the seas, making Caesar's crossing of the Adriatic perilous. Still, Caesar led part of his army across, near Palaeust in Neprius, while Mark Antony later reinforced him under cover of night. This high-risk maneuver ensured Caesar could establish a foothold in Greece before Pompey could coordinate a defense. Near Dyrrhachium, Pompey initially forced Caesar to retreat by inflicting considerable losses. Yet Pompey held back from pressing his advantage. Encouraged by advisors and convinced of eventual victory, he maintained a cautious approach, allowing Caesar time to recover and reposition inland. Under growing pressure from the Senate and his officers, Pompey abandoned his defensive strategy. Both armies converged on the plains of Pharsalus in central Greece, setting the stage for a confrontation that would decide Rome's fate. Pharsalus offered flat, open terrain, ideal for Pompey's 7,000 cavalry, which far outnumbered Caesar's 1,000. With the Rubicon River guarding one flank, Pompey positioned his forces to exploit his superior horsemen and overwhelm Caesar's exposed lines. In anticipation of this attack, Caesar deployed 22,000 infantry in a disciplined formation and concealed an additional 3,000 foot soldiers behind his front ranks, instructing them to strike at the legs of Pompey's horses to neutralize their mobility. When the battle began, Pompey's cavalry charged, hoping to sweep around Caesar's flank. At the decisive moment, Caesar's hidden reserves rushed forward and targeted the vulnerable horsemen, driving them into disorder. With Pompey's flanks suddenly exposed, Caesar's legionaries advanced relentlessly, their discipline overwhelming the numerically larger but now panicked army. By the end, Pompey's forces had suffered approximately 15,000 dead and 20,000 captured. While Caesar's losses remained minimal, Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was betrayed and assassinated upon arrival. Although the civil war continued in other regions, Caesar's stunning triumph at Pharsalus solidified his authority and marked a crucial turning point in Roman history. Julius Caesar's bold defiance, crossing the Rubicon and marching on Rome, shook the foundations of the Roman Republic. His triumph at Pharsalus demonstrated that the will of a single, determined commander, backed by devoted legions, could override the traditional checks of senatorial rule. Yet such ambition came at a cost. The civil war, far from over, would spread across the Mediterranean, engulfing provinces and allies in its wake. As Caesar pursued Pompey to Egypt and confronted resistance in Africa and Spain, the Republic's political structures continued to fracture. His actions remain a testament to how a convergence of personal ambition, military loyalty, and the failures of political rivals can transform the destiny of a civilization, leading Rome toward autocracy and its imperial future. Thank you for watching this journey through one of history's most pivotal moments. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more engaging historical content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next episode of Top History.